Hello. Today I want to talk to you guys about the subject of tension or charge. Uh, I feel that not having this understanding of what it means to be able to tolerate charge or hold tension prevents a lot of growth, personal growth, and ability to experience and stay with the experience that you're having. And I want to explain a little bit what I mean by holding charge or tolerating tension. Now, if you think about when you have, let's say, somebody upsets you and you want to confront this person, right? If you think about that situation, think about that tension that starts to build, right? It's like this potential of what can possibly happen. And depending on the experience that we had as growing up and this, how we observe the relationship with tension will also dictate how we deal with tension, how we respond to tension. So for example, let's say that if you grew up in an environment that was pretty hostile, that conflicts were not really addressed, maybe issues were pushed aside, or maybe there was a lot of yelling or conflict, but there was no resolution. And so when it comes to relationships, there can be a very low tolerance for holding tension, right? So for example, if you're talking to someone and you feel like you have to smile, right? Like this, I know I've done this a lot, but like smiling takes away tension, because when you smile, you're sending this message to the person you're talking to that I mean no harm, there is no threat coming from me, and by that you decrease the amount of tension that exists in between the person. So if you think about it, tension is like this thing that if you're pulling two parts of the rope, and there's this tension that exists there. If one person constantly lets go of their side, there's nothing to pull on, so it's really hard to gauge where the person is at. So for example, let's say I have an issue with someone, but I have a difficult time with tension. I'm going to go up to them and I'm going to say, excuse me, maybe I just want to talk to you about something, and I'm kind of like beating around the bush, and maybe I'm smiling, and maybe I'm making excuses for myself or for them, and by doing that I eliminate tension. But what's interesting is that tension is where connection is. So if you've ever done ballroom dancing or any kind of dancing where there's connection, there's tension. So there's tension in that relationship, and through tension you can gauge where the other person is at, and also know where you're at. Right? So if we don't address certain things, or if we don't really take up space, if we don't allow ourselves to experience, all the spectrum of emotions that we have, and allow the other person to experience those emotions within us, we're not creating tension, right? Another example, a really good example, is when you want to, let's say a man wants to approach a woman and express his desire for her, but he's afraid of rejection, right? So he's going to go into this nice guy tendency and try to get rid of tension as much as possible. So when he walks up, the woman is going to be able to feel that energetically. She's going to be able to sense that he's trying to kind of earn her attention rather than be present with her and show that he's attracted to her, right? And so what it might look like is he comes up to this woman that he's attracted to, but he's not really owning the fact that he's attracted to her. all right? And it creates this ambivalence between them. It's almost like it's clear that there's an interest that he has towards her, but because he's not being clear about it, it takes away tension, and it actually creates awkwardness, right? So the opposite of tension, you could say, is ambivalence or awkward space. Another thing is, you can also call it, is charge. And what I mean by charge is like any sort of activation, right? So if you think about the energy of an orgasm, right? There's an activation, right? So there's some sort of a attraction, excitation, right? So the energy of the orgasm, it gets activated, it rises, right? And then when it activates and rises, then it's like it's this tension, right? It's this incredible amount of energy that's being held. It's potential energy, right? And so if you don't have if you don't feel comfortable holding tension, and you want to get rid of the energy, you want to get rid of it. So in an example of an orgasm, let's say a man is experiencing this orgasmic energy, and then he wants to get rid of it. So in that example, he's gonna ejaculate quickly, for lack of better example. But it's a really good demonstration. It's like excitation, charge, and then discharge. So how can we use this? So looking at your life, where do you experience where you avoid tension, where you avoid this feeling of this energy that's activated and it's held, right? It could be in arguments. So for example, you could be avoiding them by avoiding arguments altogether. It could be doing something that you like, right? So enjoying something, so pleasure. Maybe you're avoiding pleasure, and you could get rid of tension by complaining about things or being negative, right? So you can't tolerate positive tension, right? It could be having friendship, or having someone go on a trip, like let's say a partner. You may avoid the tension of that space that's created when your partner leaves for a period of time, and so you get rid of the tension by calling them or texting them, and demanding them to text you back, and so you're getting rid of the tension. And so what I'm trying to say here is that the tension is where the growth happens, right? It's like when you're another example is when you're charging for your services and you're charging too little because you can't tolerate the tension that's created by raising your price, right? Or paying for something, like not buying anything that's expensive for yourself. So you're avoiding the tension that's created by spending on something that you really want to buy, but you don't let yourself experience that charge, that tension, right? So my invitation to you is this: try to pay attention where in your life you avoid tension, where you avoid this activation, this charge, right? Whether it's in relationships, whether it's in your work, whether it can be as simple as taking a new route to go home after work, right? So something is so easy. You use a route that you've taken every day, so you don't have to think about it. So it's like, if you challenge yourself and you get out of your, it's also getting out of your comfort zone, right? You can also call it holding the tension of getting out of your comfort zone. So noticing where it is that you're avoiding tension, and then what happens when you experience tension, and how much can you tolerate it, and what do you do? What do you do to discharge it, to kind of get rid of it, and how long can you hold it and before you start discharging? And so again, my invitation is to notice where it is, and then challenge yourself to hold the tension a little longer, right? So the awkward silence, for example, maybe you want to hold that for just a little longer. Noticing where in your life you want to make improvements. So if it's with your finances, notice where it is that you don't allow tension or this charge to happen. Whether it's, like I mentioned, spending money, charging money, asking for what you need, in relationships, whether it's holding the sexual charge, sexual tension, intimate tension. It can really be used in every aspect of your life. And so one thing I will offer you, this technique that you can use to help you train to tolerate tension better, right? And the way you do this is you find a wall, and I'll show you, this is a core energetics technique. You find a wall, and what you do is you stand against the wall and you bend your knees. Right? Let me show you. So you want to bend your knees, you lean against the wall, and you bend your knees like so. So you're almost at a 90-degree angle, and then you hold this position, and you time yourself, and breathe, relax your body. The only tension that's required is in your legs and maybe in your core, but everything else just completely lets go. And just like that, you hold this position, and maybe you hold it for a minute at first, and then you hold it for 2 minutes, and maybe 3, and then slowly you start to build a little bit more each time. And what this does, it can be a little uncomfortable after a few minutes. And what this does is it helps you hold the tolerance of tension in your body, this energy. Because what happens is the longer you can hold it, you're creating potential for change, a potential for transformation. If you avoid tension, you're avoiding challenging the transformation that's possible for you in your life. So hopefully that gives you an idea of this relationship, to build a relationship with tension and understand it just a little bit better. If you have questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section down below. I will try to address them. And if you would like more information, you're welcome to visit my website at energizeyourcore.com. And I'm looking forward to seeing you next time.